So Bungie's been doing a lot of experimenting with trials over these first 3 weeks, changing things up, little things here and there. I gave my take on the first week. It's probably time to give some follow-up feedback on these experimental trials weekends. In week 2, I played 10 hours straight as a solo, going 37 and 24 in 61 matches. And in week 3, I played about 3 to 4 hours, mostly solo, and then I grouped up for one card. I did not go solo flawless at all. My team in week 3 would have very likely gone flawless were it not for someone on the enemy team leaving in our final match, screwing up the lobby, disconnecting us from the match, and giving us a loss on our card. Very cool. Week 2 gave us the flawless matchmaking pool, where if you went flawless on any card at any point for the weekend, you would exit the non-flawless pool and you would, in practice, only play against other teams that went flawless, regardless if your card was still flawless or not. Now, Bungie has posted some data related to these changes in a recent TWAB linked in the description. There were 34% fewer matches played overall, and the amount of post-flawless matches dropped by almost half, 45%. Granted, some of this droppage was likely because Trials was never going to be able to keep its week 1 population steady, but some of it is definitely due to the matchmaking changes. My main worry was that people were simply going to reset their cards at 6 wins to stay in the non-flawless pool. And while that did happen, it didn't happen to the degree that I thought it was going to. 16,000 cards got reset around 5 to 6 wins while still flawless. 2.7 million cards were started in week 2, so in the grand scheme, I guess it's not really that high of a number. The less skilled gamer crowd seemed to be very happy about these matchmaking changes, and it certainly seemed like the better you are at Trials, the less you enjoyed this change. Even some mid-tier players were upset because if they happened to get some lucky games or some matchmaking to go their way to go flawless, they then got slapped around in those post-flawless games. I think the reason I was not as thrilled about this particular weekend was because it felt like Trials and the flawless experience was shifted from you gotta be really good to get to the lighthouse to okay, now it's your turn to go flawless. It just felt like waiting in a line, waiting until Monday so that all the good players who got to the lighthouse already weren't in your way anymore. I've never thought of the flawless experience like this, even though that's sort of what got us into the old Trials situation. It felt impossible to go flawless because of all the Omega gamers gatekeeping flawless, which leads to fewer players in the playlist, leading to the playlist's death, combined with other factors, of course. I guess I'd want to know Bungie's philosophy on Trials and the flawless experience right now. Do they want it to be more accessible with regards to actually getting to the lighthouse? Do they want Trials to be a super competitive thing? It is an endgame activity after all. Should people who are simply average at the Crucible be the gatekeepers for the lighthouse? Right now it seems like Bungie's goal is to keep people in the playlist, so what happened last time does not happen again, which does mean catering a little bit more to a wider range of people, if you catch my drift. Beyond that, let's talk about the flawless matchmaking pool situation. Unless you're an Omega top 1% gamer as a solo player, I don't think there is a reason to ever go flawless to enter that pool unless you don't plan on playing Trials for the rest of the weekend. I played 61 matches in a row last Friday, all in the non-flawless pool. In my first 26 matches, I went 12 and 14. In the next 35, I went 25 and 10. I could literally see the matchmaking changes happening before my eyes. Here's the thing about the flawless versus non-flawless pools. As soon as you get a loss on your previously flawless card, I believe you are now getting the same loot as someone who has not entered the flawless pool of players at 7 wins. The flawless pool has harder matchmaking than the non-flawless, but the loot's the same. So why would I, as a solo queue, ever want to enter the flawless pool? I know I'm going to get my ass kicked in the flawless pool, so why would I bother? Sure, I guess there's the lighthouse loot for some people, but on average, you're probably just going to get something poorly rolled or statted. I'm not going to go on a 5-game win streak at 7 wins still flawless. That's not happening. If I get a flawless card, that's the last game of Trials that I'm playing for the weekend. Honestly, I don't care how much loot you drop on me for 5-0 blowout losses. I'm not going to want to suffer through getting my ass kicked that much for some garbage roll Reed's regret. I'm just not. People are naturally going to want to play against easier opponents because winning is fun. Why am I trying harder for the same items? The flawless pool is going to throw me into mostly unwinnable matches the earlier that I enter it, and I imagine most people dropped Trials for the week after hitting flawless because their experience was likely to be similar to mine had I entered the flawless pool. If playing in the flawless pool got you more than being in the non-flawless pool at 7 wins, then maybe I can work with that. But Bungie recently said, quote, "We are working on some deeper matchmaking solutions, which we hope lets us remove the flawless pool. Look out for more info in mid to late October," end quote. So it doesn't seem like we'll be taking that route in terms of loot. I realize I've said before that I'm mainly trying to play Trials for the W's, and that's true. As a solo, I at least have a chance of winning or carrying games in the non-flawless pool. In the flawless pool, especially with how often I'm getting matched against 3 stacks, no chance. Solo wins in week 1 were 23% versus 3 stacks. Week 2, it was 36%. You're looking at best 1 win for every 2 to 3 losses. I'm good. Week 3 was on Wormhaven and tested the capture the point variant of Trials, where on every round there was a flag capture that activated after 30 seconds to give people an objective to fight over. If you lost that round, the objective was moved closer to your spawn. If the game was tied, it would go back to the middle. So I actually really liked Countdown when it was in Trials of the Nine. Having that objective to play around, I thought made for a neat dynamic. So I was very interested when Bungie said that they were going to add a flag cap that turned on after 30 seconds. I thought it would lead to less sitting around and faster games, and it did to a degree. What I did not realize is that 30 seconds for all capture points does not feel like enough time. The middle capture point, I think, is mostly fine. It's rarely that impactful that the flag is unlocked after 30 seconds because people naturally drift to the middle of the map to fight. That's just what happens. Now, maybe it's just the fact that it's Wormhaven, but the advantage capture points, the ones that go to the spawn side of the losing team, did not feel very fun to interact with at all. First off, it takes around 15 to 20 seconds to even get across the map. At that point, you have 10 seconds to try to figure out a plan of attack. As a group versus solos, that might be pretty easy. As solos versus solos, it's kind of a toss-up. As a solo versus a group, it's nearly impossible. Something that I thought was interesting was that in a recent update, Bungie said that they wanted to make sure that there were fewer blowouts in Trials. That is, games that ended in 5-0. In week 1, 38% of games ended in a 5-0 for solo matchmaking. In week 2, it was 29%. In week 1, 60% of games ended in a 5-0 or a 5-1. In week 2, it was 52%. It likely went down in week 2 thanks to matchmaking changes that we discussed earlier. Bungie wants solo fireteam blowouts to be under 33% for the week, and blowouts overall to dip to 30 to 40% over the long term. What this particular rule set feels like is Bungie's way of getting those blowout numbers closer to what they want. After all, getting the flag cap on your side is a tremendous advantage in most cases. Just being able to zone people out with, stasis hunters at the threat of being shatter dived was enough to keep people away from the point and create a situation where the attacking team simply had to try anything to even keep people off of the point. This naturally will lead to more total rounds in a match, or at least it feels like it did. I definitely had a lot more games end in 5-2 and 5-3 in week 3, even if it never really felt like the game was ever within winning reach. But this is not how I believe players wanted that blowout statistic to be handled. I think people would prefer better matchmaking over making the game mode simply generate more total rounds due to the way that it's balanced. In fact, as I just quoted Bungie, we are working on some deeper matchmaking solutions, blah, blah, blah. That's sort of along the same lines as this. You know, better matchmaking leading to more competitive matches that happen organically, not because of a rule set. If the losing team is going to get that much of an advantage, then I think the timer for the point needs to be extended a little bit to give the other team a chance to try to coordinate some sort of a play. Not only that, but there isn't a whole lot from stopping teams who are up in round wins from simply throwing around to get the flag cap on their side of the field. I frequently got into situations where my team was down 4-1, 4-2. The other team would lose the round where we had the cap on our side, but now the enemy team has the cap on their side and they only need one win to win the match. I think if the team with the cap on their side wins, the flag should go to the middle to make things even again. Now, at least, it would be 4-2 with the flag in the middle, and the team that's down has a better chance of posing some sort of a comeback. Note that this feedback mainly applies to Wormhaven. Maybe a different map would have this play out differently, but on Wormhaven, it didn't really feel great. Also, people have just said that this would play much better if the point was just in the middle the entire time, and I'd say that I would definitely prefer that over the whole point rotating situation, unless the points rotated to spots that could be reasonably reached by both teams around the same time. Meta-wise, you know, nothing really to do with the mode itself. Shatter Dive is here again, and I don't really know who asked for it to come back, but if you could ask it to leave again, I would really appreciate that, and I'm sure a lot of other people would. I'm really tired of hunters getting to fling themselves into stupid positions and being rewarded for it. Had a fair amount of Stag Warlocks as well. That seems to be the subclass combo du jour. Not really the most fun to be fighting against. I had someone in my chat describe it as if a Titan's Titan had a barricade that couldn't be killed and it healed you. And, you know, that's pretty close to what it feels like sometimes. I know it's not exactly the same, but it sure feels like it sometimes. Anyway, that is my feedback on Trials for Week 2 and Week 3. Trials is on break for Week number 4. We're going to have Iron Banner instead, and I guess we'll see what happens after that. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.